Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Masters with Harshith podcast. Today, I have with me a good friend of mine, Sanjana Ganesh from Carnegie Mellon. She's currently pursuing her Masters in Information Systems Management. So, hi, Sanjana. Thank you for being here today. How are you?
Hi, Harshith. Thank you for having me. I've been pestering you to have me on your show because it's going all like crazy over LinkedIn. Yeah,
Right.
so thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And I think, like you said, it's the reason we are doing this podcast series is because a lot of people are actually finding this useful. Instead of going out and reaching to people individually, this is like one platform where they can just come and look at the universities they want to apply to, understand what the program and structure is like. It's so much easier, than people like 10 people reaching out to you versus like just watching a YouTube video. It's much simpler, and you might forget
Yeah,
or omit things. So this is more comprehensive.
yeah,
That's why. So
totally.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, so Sanjana, so let's just get started off with some basic stuff, right? So a lot of students want to know what information systems management is. I think over the last 5, 10 years, the demand in that field or like people applying for that field has increased a lot. So what exactly is information systems management?
So, to probably put it all together in like one sentence, I would say information systems management is like a tool or a degree that people learn and the skills that
Mhm,
they gain out of it, they can sort of use that to help businesses and organizations to use their data and information more effectively.
mhm, mhm.
So obviously you're going to learn a lot about systems. Even the courses that you have as part of the degree is going to be a lot focused on systems and how different skill sets can be applied to better improve the systems. So
Right.
in a nutshell, I would say that is what it is. To dive more deep into it, um, the degree as such is very vast because
Mhm.
different universities have different curriculums, different syllabus, and but the main focus is on data. But again, there are people who don't wholly get into data. There are people who also want to get into the software engineering background.
Right.
And this is a program where people can also get into product management because ultimately you're learning about a business and how
Mhm.
to improve the business. And
Right.
so if you sort of like incorporate the right technical skills needed for that, I think you can get into any field-based software product or data.
Right.
So yeah.
So it's like a gateway to different opportunities based, and you can like pick your courses based on where you want to head.
Yes, yes,
Got
yes,
it. So,
exactly.
Sanjana, what made you pick up the information systems course program?
Um, so to be very honest, I don't come from a computer science background or an IT background. I did
Mm-hmm.
EC in my undergrad,
Okay.
and probably through the mid of my undergrad, probably early third year or so, is when I realized that I did not want to do this. I did not want to get into hardware or electronics.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still confused because obviously that degree did not give me as exposure to development and coding as much as a CS student would have got at that time.
Right.
But I knew I started like working on like small projects, related to software or related to the data field.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading a lot more on it. I made sure that my internships were focused more on development.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the second I started my full-time job is when I realized that software engineering is what I want to do.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I also knew that I wanted a second degree. I wanted a master's degree. I didn't want to stop with my bachelor's degree,
Mm-hmm.
which is why number one, I wanted to pursue a master's degree. Now, when it
Right.
came to the time where I had to choose what field I wanted to get into, my priority was getting into a well-reputed college. Like
Mm-hmm.
the degree came secondary for me.
Right.
And because I wanted to get into more technical, more computer science oriented degree, I
Right.
knew that applying for computer science like MS and CS would probably not get me into like top colleges, well reputed
Right.
universities. So then
Right.
I
Right.
started looking for alternatives. alternate degrees that would get me into like a well-reputed one. So that's when I came across MISM. And then I spoke to a lot of seniors. I spoke to a lot of my undergrad college alumni who were in CMU. And I had some family friends who had already done this program, the same program in CMU. I spoke to them, and all of them just told me that, this is one program where it's pretty flexible. You can sort of like get into whatever career path you want to get into. And I knew that, applying to this program gave me a better chance, gave me a better shot at getting into CMU and doing like CMU courses than maybe an MSCS at an equally reputed college.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people also ask us, right? Like they come from EEE or ECE background and they know they want to do software engineering, and getting into MSCS is much more harder. So what are the other alternatives they've got? So like for the last episode, we had a student from Columbia, a friend of mine who was doing the electrical engineering program. So he had the option of not picking any core courses. So he's completely taking up machine learning and computer vision courses. So I think that for that's probably for someone who's interested in deep machine learning and things like that. But for someone who's interested in general software development, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. A lot of people can really relate with that. And also, guys, just for your information, when I applied for the MISM program at CMU, Sanjana was like my source of truth. Everything I got to know, I got in probably because of her, because she gave me a lot of tips on how it works. So do listen to the whole thing, because she's got really great ideas and tips. So Sanjana, when you said like, MSCS getting in is kind of harder. So how different is the MSCS degree from the MISM degree, And like in general, what are the applicants? What are the profile of the applicants to get into the MISM program look like?
So one constant answer and a very easy answer is research. So an MSCS, especially if you get into like a CS program at a college like CMU, they are going to look into your research experience, how much you have delved into certain subject topics, and what are your credentials for it. Have you published like so and so papers and so conferences or so and so publications? So that holds a lot of value when it comes to a MSCS degree from a well-reputed college, because obviously places like Columbia, CMU, they are extremely good when it comes to their research. So I think they have great research departments. They have great professors who want students to help them, to assist them further their research, further their work. So I think I did not have a strong credential when it came to research. Again, because considering I don't come from a CS background. And MISM is more on the industry side. It's teaching you how to go into corporate, how are you going to handle yourself in corporate. Apart from all the technical skills, this is also what you're going to learn. You're going to learn about like the organization structure. How does an organization work? What is the different hierarchy in an organization? So I felt like that aligned a lot better with my goals and what I wanted to do, because I did not want to get into research. But there are universities that have CS degrees which are industry focused. But at least in my
programs.
Professional programs. But in my opinion, just purely a very subjective opinion, I don't consider those programs as valuable as like a research oriented program. I'm sure like whatever the students are studying in both those programs are pretty similar, but I feel like the kind of quality you get in a research oriented program, if you are into CS, if you want to get into CS, is a lot more. That's just a very personal opinion.
Correct. No, I think that's kind of true. So at Columbia, most of my peers are like very, very interested in research, although I'm not. So I just had like one paper when I got in that was still under review, and it got published almost after I got in. So I can completely understand what you're saying. And all the professors here, they promote, doing research in their labs or like, in their area of interest. And a lot of students align with that too. So I think what you're saying makes a lot more sense. So Sanjana, what is your background? How did you, what did you study? Where did you study? And how does it all fit in?
So I did most of my schooling in Dubai. I did it under the CBSE curriculum, and there when I actually was introduced to computer science. So during my time, we had Python, like we programmed in Python. So at that time, I loved it because it was the first time for me actually learning a programming language, sitting and coding like basic stuff,
Right.
classes and like objects and stuff, learning all that. And I loved it. Like I enjoyed it thoroughly, and that
Mm-hmm.
was probably my favorite subject at that time as well. But I was still confused because I wanted to explore options. I was not rigid on getting into computer science. And at that time, this whole blow up about data and AI and stuff was not so prevalent. Like it was
Correct.
just starting.
Right.
And based on like all my friends or like my cousins and seeing what they are doing, what they have done, I was like, I don't want to get into like, I don't want to be a software engineer sitting in front of a desk
Right.
24/7, like just typing on my laptop. I want to do something different.
Right.
So, which is why although I loved computer science, I was still a little skeptical to take that, and I just wanted to explore. So,
Mm-hmm.
after speaking to a lot of people, what I heard was taking ECU would let you do both. So, if you
Right.
are not interested in electronics, you can easily shift into
Circuit
CS.
branch, I think that's what they call it, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I decided to go for ECE, and halfway through, I realized this is not for me
Right.
because some of the subjects, like I found it very boring and dry, to
Mm-hmm.
be honest.
Right.
And then that's when the whole hype about like how computer science is the future. Everybody, whoever's taking engineering should now get into computer science. The
Right.
whole hype started, and I'm
Correct.
like, what have I done right now? Did I make a
Yeah.
mistake and all of that?
Right.
So yeah, but then luckily, luckily I got placed in a job that allowed me to develop a lot more. So
Mm-hmm.
after my 4 years of undergrad doing EC, so I studied in Chennai from Shiv Nadar University Assistant College of Engineering. And after that, I got placed and I worked in a fintech as a technical analyst for Citibank in Chennai. So I think my experience there was great. And I just got exposed to a lot of technologies, and it's my first corporate experience as well. So starting off, like the first team I got into, they were like totally into big data, Hadoop, Kafka, Spark, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't even heard of those technologies or like those software at that time.
Right.
And I think it was a great learning opportunity for me. So that's where my whole journey started. And as I learned these new technologies, I started applying that to work, and I started getting more tasks from my team, and that continued. But then again, midway or like halfway through my job, I realized that it's not just important to have these technical skills, because initially I was very focused on like, okay, you know what, I need to be proficient with Kafka, I need to be proficient with Hadoop.
Right.
But then later I realized that that's not enough. You need to
Mm-hmm.
understand the business requirements thoroughly. Like
Correct.
that's the first step, because then there's no point of knowing all these technologies if you don't know where and what technologies to apply for, like
How it
what
fits in,
requirement.
right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So but then I realized, because again I don't have business background, it was very difficult for me to grasp certain concepts, especially in fintech. It
Mm-hmm.
can get very complex. So for me to understand certain jargons, certain financial jargons, and like um so because obviously the people I worked with were all experienced, like they were like senior developers or like VP level people. So if I had to attend a call with them, they would just keep talking. They're not going to sit and wait for me to understand. So I had to also like work quickly in that way. So that's when I realized that I also want a degree that's going to give me both. It's going to give me a
Right.
balance of both technology as well as these business requirements. And
Right.
also, as I previously mentioned, because I wanted to get into technology more. So I think MISM like perfectly fit all my requirements, all my criteria.
Right.
And CMU is known to have the best MISM program. So
Correct.
I did not even think twice. And like when I received my CMU admit, I just
Makes a
went
lot of
straight.
sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think information systems, because it stands at the intersection of a bit of application and like theory, and like you said, courses for managers, business. I think it's a very, very good amalgamation of things. So, Sanjana, what are your career aspirations like after your MISM degree? What are you looking at currently?
So I'll actually like answer this by giving you like some pretext into what I wanted to do last year when I came to the US.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when I came to the US, when I met like people here in my program, a lot of them wanted to get into product management after having experience as a software developer.
Mm-hmm.
So then again, I was like, is this something I want to do? Because I'm someone who's always interested in talking to people.
Right.
I would love to like interact with a lot more people and like, work that way.
Right.
So I was also considering product management initially, and it was a very bad conundrum at that time because
Right.
everybody was like in their internship search, getting into it, and I'm like, I don't even know what I want to do. So and then again, I spoke to a lot of people because I think that's the best thing to do. Speak to a lot of people who have already experienced this.
Mm.
Speak to seniors. Speak to like corporate people. Like even if you don't know them, doesn't matter. Just like go connect with them on LinkedIn, and I'm sure everybody's going to be welcoming, because it's a very helpful word, and LinkedIn is a very
Correct.
helpful,
Platform.
supportive platform.
True.
So, one advice is just don't have any shame. Like, don't hesitate. Don't think about what they'll think, or don't think about how you are going to like disturb them or something like that. If they have time, they're gonna respond. They're gonna reply back,
Correct.
and they're gonna help you. So, that's definitely the biggest tip. So just go ahead and network and talk to more people. And that's how I figured out what I wanted to do, because then I spoke to a lot of people. I have like family here who have done this, so I spoke to them. And most people told me that even if you want to get into product, having some like strong technical background is
Correct.
necessary, and it will definitely help you. And it is very easy to transition from a tech role to a product role internally within a company after a few years of experience,
Correct.
than like going into a product role or applying for new product roles. So I think, and I did not hate coding. As I said, it's not something I hated. I didn't mind, and I wanted to like get more technical experience anyway. So then that's when I was like, you know what, let's like don't think too much, just get into it, start preparing for software roles, and let's just figure it out along the way. So then I started applying for software roles, and then and then I did my internship now, and I loved it. And I think I would continue
In the
pursuing
software. Right.
in the software field. Yeah,
Makes
that's what I
sense.
want to do.
I think one very important thing you mentioned, right? Like the position or like the place you're stuck in right now, you're probably or most likely not the first person to be there. There will be people who've already gone down that path. So reach out to them. Do not hesitate. If you message 10 people, at least 6 to 7 will get back to you. I'm sure of that because that's how it was for me as well. That you cold message, and that's fine. People do not know you, but people are, like Sanjana said, very welcoming on LinkedIn and other platforms as well. So that makes a lot of sense. And even the product management part was very, very relevant to me as well, because I was at a point like where I was also, I loved interacting with, I love interacting with people and talking to people, especially in the business sense and things like that. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm better at that than a lot of other people. So maybe I can leverage both of them. But then now I've stuck to the point where I want to get into the depth of technicalities and then think of switching. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for bringing that up as well, Sanjana. So Sanjana, what do you, this MISM program, right? How's it structured at Carnegie Mellon? Are there specializations? What subjects do you generally take up, and what are things like?
So MISM in CMU, there are two specializations. So one is just the general program that I'm a part
Mm-hmm.
of, and another one there is a business intelligence and data analytics pathway that people
Okay.
can take. And so there are four different options that one can choose. So there is the general 16-month MISM program. Then
Mm-hmm.
there's the MISM BETA. So we call it BETA, the Business Intelligence and Data Analytics. So
Right.
MISM BETA 16 months. And there is MISM General 12 month and MISM BETA 12. So the only difference between the 16 and the 12-month program is the 16-month program comes with a mandatory internship that the students have to do. The 12-month, they don't require an internship. And only people with 3 years or above of work experience prior to joining their master's degree are even eligible for the 12-month program.
Got it.
So that's how it works.
Right.
And in terms of, so the pathway I'm in is the general pathway. So I have to do a total of 162 units for my entire
Mm-hmm.
program. and that's divided into 54, 54, 54. So we have 3 semesters and one summer semester where we have to do our internship. And I am allowed to take 148 electives and 114 core courses. And the core courses, it is possible to like exempt those courses if you already have credentials to prove that you know the skills. For example, like last year, courses like database management, object-oriented programming, and Java. These were like some popular courses that students exempted. And once you exempt these courses, you have those units free now, which will add up to your electives. So it's not fixed to 48 units of electives. You can exempt your core courses and add those units to your electives and take whatever courses you want outside of Heinz College. So you can, if you're interested in like software or like data, ML, AI, you can go ahead and take SES, the School of Computer Science courses. Or if you are someone who was more into the business side or you want to get into product, there are great courses from the Tepper Business School. Similarly, there are so many other schools that one can take courses from. So yeah, so this is the basic structure. Apart from that, there's also like an unpopular sort of like specialization that CMU offers, but usually people don't take it because then your structure is very rigid. You don't have the flexibility to go around and take courses from other schools. So they provide like a software engineering specialization. Then there is like an IT testing specialization. Then I think there's another like information security specialization. So there are like 5 such specializations. But again, these specializations, I haven't heard of people who have taken it. The only difference is along with your MISM degree, you also end up getting like another certificate showing that, okay, you know what, you've done this
specialization.
Also. Yeah, this specialization also. But I haven't heard of people taking it because the structure, as I said, gets very rigid and it does not allow you to take electives from other schools. And another thing is the BEDA program is not as flexible as the general program because the BEDA program is more data focused and so they have lesser electives than the general program.
Got it. So, Sanjana, what kind of programs, or what kind of subjects are compulsory? What courses are compulsory? You mentioned, I think, object-oriented programming, databases. But what other courses do you have that are compulsory? Are there any other courses?
Apart from this Java, there's database. Then there is distributed systems. Then there is statistics.
Are these compulsory courses, or
yeah,
these
are core courses. Yeah, these are core courses which can be exempted if you have probably done it in your undergrad or you have work experience.
Got it.
So then there's statistics, distributed systems, and then talking about like non-technical courses, there's accounting and finance foundations. Then there's organizational structure and design. Yeah, there are a lot more, but these are
fair enough. I think that's a good blend of technical and non-technical courses, and that's what differentiates a MISM from a MSCS program. Also, in addition, I think one thing Sanjana mentioned was the MISM is not offered by the School of Computer Science, but it's offered by the Heinz School, which is like another school at Carnegie Mellon. So that's also a very important point to note. So I think one of the discussions Sanjana was mentioning that the professors are probably not the same who will be taking the same subject. So your databases will probably be taught by someone at the Heinz School and not from the computer science department. It probably depends on which section you're in, right? So I think that's how it works. So for those who want to like study databases and things like that, just keep that in mind as well. So Sanjana, did you apply to any other place? So I know CMU's MISM is like in information systems management is number one, but did you have other options as well? What were they?
Yeah, so for MISM, I had applied to CMU, Texas A&M University. They also have a very good MISM program. Then I had applied to University of Maryland. Then I had also applied to UWash. So these 4 schools I applied for MISM, but I was also looking into like business analytic programs, the 1 year or like 16 months, 1.5 year business analytic programs. But MISM was my priority. For the business analytics program, I had applied to the UCs, UCLA, UC San Diego. Then I'd also applied to USC. So I think, totally I had 8 to 9 applications, 8 to 9 colleges that I had applied to.
Right. So Sanjana, what is the class strength of like the MISM program, and like what are like how many years of work experience do people have? Does everyone have work experience? What is the mixture like?
The class strength is pretty high. It's
Hmm.
around, including all the specializations, all the pathways, it's between 200 and 300
Hmm.
each year. So, yep. So that's the class size, which is pretty big compared to a lot of other courses in the other schools. And sorry, what was your next question?
What is background of students getting in like? Like, are
Yeah.
they all from like electrical and electronics, or do you have people from computer science as well? Do you have people who are coming from mechanical or maybe business students as well? What is it like?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So that's like a good part because it's a very good blend of people from diverse backgrounds.
Hmm.
So I met a lot of people who are from EC, electrical backgrounds. There are also people from computer science, IT backgrounds. There are people with 2, 3, or probably maximum, I think I've seen around 4 to 5 years of work experience.
Right,
And the minimum is new grads, people who don't have any experience.
right,
And it's not like one sector of people or like one uh, group of people are dominant there. It's actually a good blend of
right.
people from different backgrounds. There are also people from non-technical backgrounds and even diverse racial backgrounds, I would say. It's like there are a lot of Indians, a lot of Asians, a lot of like local Americans.
Right.
So the mixture is
The mixture
pretty
is
like
good.
balanced out.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. That's nice. That's nice. So what are the career paths possible? I think you mentioned about software engineering, about product management and things like that. But what other paths also can you pursue after doing a MISM degree?
Data science, data engineering,
Hmm.
ML engineer, AI engineer. So anything like in the data field. And then again, be it software engineering, cloud engineer, securities engineer. Then on the non-technical side, there's product manager, project manager. Then one can even get into like finance and accounting if they want to.
Interesting. This
Um,
sounds like
s-
CS plus other stuff.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Got
So
it.
I think it's a degree which allows you to do like
A lot of
pretty
things.
much whatever you want. Yeah.
Correct, correct. That makes sense. So, Sanjana, how much does the program cost? And like, how are you personally funding your program?
So I pay on an average around $28,000 per semester.
Okay.
So that's probably close to $90,000 in tuition fee
Right,
for the whole program.
right,
Then and in terms of living expenses, Pittsburgh is not as expensive as other cosmopolitan like New York or
right.
California. So there is a lot you can save there in terms
Hmm.
of your rent and your living expenses.
Right,
So probably I would say overall, including living, it would cost around 110, 120K to the
right,
max, not
right.
more than that.
120, I think, is right.
Uh,
Got it.
yeah, yeah. And how I'm funding my fee is that so my tuition fee is partly funded by a student loan and
Right,
partly by my parents.
got it.
And apart from that, I make sure that all my living expenses I take care by doing like part-time jobs, by doing teaching assistantships, and other like part-time desk jobs that's possible. And
Hmm.
also my internship right now helped me a lot, in saving up money and paying off a little bit of my tuition as well for the last semester.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Uh, so, Sanjana, how did you prepare for your application? Did you do anything like different when you were in college? Did you talk to people? Or what did you do any special project or what was it like for you?
So not so much in college, I would say, because I was still sort of like trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So college, the 4 years was just for that. But once I actually figured out what I wanted to do, that is while working, I started working on like smaller projects, just small personal projects, to just get back into coding, get back into that whole atmosphere.
Right,
And apart from that, I made sure I spoke to a lot of people, uh, to, sort of have that satisfaction that I am taking or going in the right path and I'm not making a mistake by choosing MISM.
right.
So speaking to a lot of people helps. It might be a little overwhelming because the kind of information you're going to get from multiple people can get overwhelming very
Correct. It can
easily.
be very
But
mixed responses as well. So
exactly,
you have to
exactly,
filter them out and correct.
exactly. And ultimately, everybody just ends up saying, do whatever you want to do, like whatever
Correct. That's the
makes you
underlying thing
happy,
everyone says.
go for it,
Right.
so that is also something you have to figure out along the way. So
Correct.
but it definitely helps, just having that much of information, even if it's like plethora of information, you can just sit down and like organize all of that and like see where you want to go, if this is something that is of interest to you. So it requires a lot of organization, I would say, a lot of organization. And
Right.
for me, being a working professional at the same time preparing for my GRE, my TOEFL, my SOP and my LOAs was pretty challenging. So I would make sure that I would plan my day out well in advance. So I would wake up early, probably around like 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. And so that's when I work better. I work better in the mornings. So 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. And then I would start preparing for my GRE. I would practice problems, look at like, videos online and stuff for
Right.
verbal. And then around 10 a.m. I would start my work, and that would go on. And if I'm not heavy on work on certain days, I would also take some time in the afternoon to do more GRE problems.
Right.
And again in the night, once I'm done with work by like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., I would take another 2 hours, to brush up or like learn those words that we had to do in
Right.
GRE.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Yep.
how I prepared. And
Mm-hmm.
I made sure that I gave my GRE like probably by the end of July. I think it's much better to give it as early as possible, because then you can, like spread out your
Focus.
time in preparing
Yeah.
your SOP and stuff, because SOP is the most important document for
Correct.
any school, for any application. So once I was done with GRE, I immediately focused on TOEFL, because I didn't want to leave a big gap between them, because it's very similar in terms of what we have to
Correct.
prepare. So I ended up giving TOEFL like within the next month.
Hmm.
And also simultaneously I was also drafting out my SOP. But once I was done with my TOEFL, I just went full into my SOPs. And once I drafted it out, I sent it out to multiple people, asking them for their reviews, if they had any suggestions and stuff like that. So again, networking, that helps you a lot.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, so nothing different from the rest of us. Like I think all of us
Correct.
follow the same process.
Right.
But it's good to have that upper hand, that extra credential in your SOP or in your application, in terms of like your additional personal projects or your GitHub
Hmm.
profile, how good it is, or how often do you even like do projects or like use the repo.
Correct.
So that's definitely an upper hand in your
Makes sense.
application for sure.
I think that what you mentioned is very important. For people who have already started working, it's very, very difficult to juggle both your master's applications and like your work. So you've got to plan it out very well. And if you're giving a GRE and TOEFL, give it as soon as possible. Do not procrastinate. I know a lot of friends who've done that and they've suffered. So what I would really recommend all of you to do is, if you're in your third year or final year of college, you're not sure if you want to go, you have the time and you to study, just give it off. What's the worst that'll happen? You'll not use that score. That's all. If you're going for an MBA, a lot of MBA schools also right now accept the GRE score. So you can always just write the TOEFL and focus on the SOP and LOR and you're done to apply. So yeah, that makes sense too. Thank you, Sanjana. So Sanjana, so going to a good university, other than the brand name that it has, how does it help you with your job search? Like, did it help you in gaining your internship? And like I've heard, like last year the season was brutal, right? A lot of people did not end up getting an internship. So going to a good university, how does that actually help you?
So CMU has like these great platforms for very good career fairs. So I mean, I'm sure most of you know the US system is not the same as how we have it back in India, or I don't know about other countries, but at least
Right.
back in India, you know how you go for your campus placements, sit in one room in your college, give interviews, finish everything on the same day, get an offer, and like go back home.
Correct.
That's not how it works here. You need to do everything on your own. No matter how great or supportive a college is, ultimately you have to send out your applications, you have to send out your resumes. The college is not going to do that for you. But one good thing that I've noticed in CMU is, as I said, the career fairs. So they have a lot of career fairs where they pull in a lot of good companies, and those companies come and brand themselves, and they want to recruit interns or like new hires. And I think it's a great platform for one to even go and network with recruiters and other employees from those companies. So the career fairs helped a lot of us here land an internship. But for me, I would say I actually got my internship because of CMU, because the company I interned for is known to recruit CMU students, especially MISM students.
Right.
And Handshake is a platform that most students get access to once you are part of a university, and it's similar to LinkedIn, but like specific to your university.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of like job listings there that you apply through. So I had applied to my company, my internship company, through Handshake.
Okay.
And after that, they sent out like an OA, an online assessment. And based on those results, they
You go on
shortlisted
to the next round.
students for
Correct.
the usual process. But I think regardless of how good a university is or how supportive a university is in terms of these career fairs and like whatever
It's
they can
all
do,
in your
it's all in
hands.
your hands. It's all in your
Right.
hands.
Makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. So Sanjana, so you mentioned about the Handshake platform, right? So is it open to students of any university, or does your university need to have like a partnership with them to get you onboarded? How does it generally work?
I think it does require the university to have a partnership with
Hmm.
Handshake,
Right.
because I can only use it using my CMU credentials.
Got it. So
So,
that's specific to
and
universities.
yeah, specific to
Right.
universities, but then it's like a common platform that every university can register to and the students can
Right.
access.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So I think it kind of gives an exclusivity kind of thing where universities who are on that platform have probably an upper hand compared to other applicants from outside, right? That
Yes,
makes sense.
yes.
Okay, so
The competition pool is
yeah,
less.
correct, makes sense. And Sanjana, as we come towards the end of this episode, is there any tip you'd want to give specifically for the CMU MISM applicants?
Sure. So, one thing that I've noticed, again, I don't want any of you to get scared or, like rethink your decisions. It's just my personal opinion that I have noticed after coming here that I have seen that it's better to come with at least 1 or 2 years of work experience post your undergrad, only because of the market situation right now here. Because I'm sure it's going to get better. Like people, it is already getting better. It is in the process of getting better. And maybe by next year, by the time the next cohort gets in, it is probably going to go back to normal. So it's not going to make that much of a difference. But then it's again like an extra leverage that you have or an extra credential that you have on your resume to show, okay, you know what, I have 1 year of work experience or 2 years of work experience, and I have worked on so and so technologies, I have worked on so and so business requirements. So it's easier to sort of like formulate your resume, make that
Hmm.
skeleton, if that makes sense. So if possible, do like try and get 1 or 2 years of work experience before coming here for a master's degree. And even if you don't, it's totally fine. There are people who are succeeding here. There are people who are ending up getting like higher paid jobs than like a person with like 2 3 years of work experience. So it's not completely like black and white. So it's like very balanced out. But it's just a personal opinion, because I am finding it much easier to sort of find jobs and like give interviews, because I can understand those corporate jargons right now.
Right.
I am able to better perform in my internship, better perform in an interview because of that. So again, that's just a personal opinion. Apart from that, I think it's very important to be very, very, very planned and organized during your whole application process. Because if it's very haphazard, you're not going to know what to do when, because there are a lot of things you're going to do. You are going to get overwhelmed, and trust me, it's all worth it at the end. So just push yourself through it, through the application process, because once you get that email from that dream university of yours, you are going to feel accomplished. You are going to feel like, my hard work did not, go to waste. So just push through it. And one more thing that I want to tell, this is something that I was fretting over during my application, is the whole cost part of a master's degree, because
Hmm.
obviously we can't compare rupees to dollars. Like the value is marginally like different. So we
Right.
can't do that comparison, but sort of like intuitively we end up doing that when we don't know how the market here is. So one thing I would recommend is if you are in a position to get a student loan and if you are in a position where you can fund yourself, please don't think about the cost, or don't think about, 100K, 120K, that's like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but what I'm trying to say is, in the end, it's definitely worth it. In the end, you'll realize that you can easily pay that much amount of money in like, or probably a year of work experience. So please don't have money as your top factor if you are in a position.
It shouldn't be the limiting, right?
Exactly. It shouldn't be in your top 3 pointers of whatever criteria that you have, unless you're in a very bad situation, very bad financial situation. But if you're in a decent situation, if you know that it's possible, please don't bring in money as a hindering factor to your application. Please go for your dream universities and just work hard, and first have faith in yourself, have confidence in yourself that you can get in, and then just push through the entire application process and don't procrastinate, please. Yeah.
I think this was wonderful, Sanjana. So I have a masterclass, right? So I am sharing the access across to people, and I talk about how do you plan the timeline, how do you prepare your SOP, your LOR, and I'll again be dropping the link to that in the description for this video. And I focus on exactly what you're saying. So everyone's factors for considering a university is different, and Columbia University was the most expensive one I applied to, and I was like, probably even if I get in, I will not be going there. But once I spoke to people who are in Colombia and understood how the costs can be, how the payoff, I was like, what probably does make sense for me to go there. So thanks a lot for that. That was very helpful. So Sanjana, just one last thing before we wrap up, right? So if it's possible, would you be comfortable sharing your GPA, your GRE, your TOEFL, and if you have any research experience, like how many papers do you have, or something like that?
Yeah, so mine's like a very average profile. So my undergrad GPA was 8.8 out of 10. So after I had to do WES evaluation. So after WES.
So 1 second, I'm just going to add in there. So CMU MISM is one of the only program that, 2 out of the 10 programs I applied to who needed the WES score calculation. So WES is called the World Education Service, if I'm not wrong. And they are a company which converts your GPA on a scale of 4. So they take your GPA directly, they take your grade sheet directly from the university where you studied from, and they convert a course by course thing into like a scale of 4, and then they send that score to the US university you're applying to. Sorry, please.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. So after WES, I think mine was around 3.76 or something around that. That scale. Right. Then after that, GRE, I had a 322 or 166 in quant and a 156 in verbal. Right. And TOEFL, I had around 116. Yeah. I don't remember the split up, but
that's okay.
Total
that's
was
fine.
116.
So did you have any research paper or something like that as well?
I had not. I did not, it was undergoing, I had mentioned that in my SOP. Got it. Right. But I did not have any research paper published at that time.
Awesome. I think that's a green flag for everyone who's applying.
Yeah.
So if you do not have a research paper, do not worry.
It's
because
totally
I was same
fine.
situation. Yeah, I was in the same situation, right? So I was applying for CS programs, information systems programs, and I was like, I don't have a research paper. Am I going to get in or not? So it is fine as far as you can just talk about how technical you are as a student, and that will hold value as well.
So I think my work experience helped in sort of covering up. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Sanjana. Your insights have been super, super useful to me, and I know it will be the same to a lot of other people who are listening to this as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harshith, for having me. It was great fun.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sanjana.
Yeah. Thanks.